And Mother's Day is the other drama. This was Monday night, BBC Two. Luke went to the screening of this, so he can talk us through this.
This is a single drama from the writer who wrote it, Nick Leather, who brought us. Nick Leather. I met him as well. Lovely. But
am I doing this review or something?
Yeah, no, you may as well be. Who wrote most recently "Murdered for Being Different," which Matt praised not too long ago in podcast land. This focuses on two women. They're sort of divided by the Irish Sea. There's a bombing in Warrington at the very start of the drama that tears one family apart and sets Vicky McClure's character. She plays Susan McHugh, and she sort of sees all the destruction on TV and makes a call to a really well-known Irish radio station and radio show rather, and says, I want to do something. I'm just an ordinary woman. I want to do something to stop this tragedy from occurring again and again. It's all based on real life events, and it's interwoven with the proper news footage from the time. Matt and I were 10 in 93, and I have absolutely no knowledge of this happening, but a lot of people who were at the screening that day didn't have much of a memory of it either.
I was 19, and I must admit I do not remember any of it.
But the writer Nick Leather, he lived in Warrington. He remembers it really well. He remembers the streets that it was on. He was on the shopping arcade the day before with his family, and it's a story he's always wanted to write. So Anna Maxwell Martin and Daniel Mays play the father of the main boy that they focus on, that's sort of blown to bits really in Warrington, who dies quite early on in the drama. And then it is the family coming to terms with it in their various different ways of coping with grief, and Vicky McClure as this Susan McHugh character sort of standing up for what she believes is right and becoming a sort of a politician without being in politics, and a voice for the people. But she's not completely a heroine, because she's seen by some as sticking her nose into places that she doesn't belong. She annoys the Northern Irish community because it's always happened in Warrington, and this has been happening all this time in Northern Ireland, and you didn't care about us. So there's a lot to take in, but she is credited with starting the peace process, and as always in these real life dramas, you do at the end.
Are you sure it was 1993 and not 1983?
No, 1993.
Gosh, okay.
Yeah, 1993. So yeah, Daniel Mays, Anna Maxwell Martin, Vicky McClure, and David Wilmot are the main faces in this. And I have to say, Vicky McClure, who we talk about a lot on the podcast because we're big fans of Line of Duty, she's just completely transformative in this. I mean, you cannot for 1 minute believe that she is anything other than this Susan McHugh character with, these strong beliefs and this want for change. Anna Maxwell Martin plays grief incredibly well. I thought Daniel Mays, who it took me a while to recognise, was outstanding as the father Colin. And I liked how it just felt so incredibly respectful to all involved. I know that the director Fergus O'Brien and the writer Nick Leather went and met them several times and showed them the progress. But I just thought it was a really sincere, honest, brutal, difficult to watch single drama that will stick with me, and I think it's important that the BBC show something like this.
I thought Vicky McClure's acting was brilliant. She, as you say, perfectly pitched Dublin accent as well. Intersplicing it with kind of real news and real footage was very clever, and it felt innovative without feeling kind of dated. You know what I mean? Because if you're setting it sort of 25 years ago, it didn't feel like it. And they did a nice job at the end, flashing up the real pictures of the people. And one thing that I found very amazing that I read afterwards is that they didn't meet the families. So Vicky McClure did not meet Mrs. McEwen. And I think that's very interesting, because normally when people do these kind of things, particularly if it's real life, they get their inspiration from meeting them. But what they did was they just sort of, acted what was there in front of them and took their own interpretation, which I think gave it more believability rather than just being a documentary drama.
The director that I spoke of just a second ago, he didn't want them to do impressions.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They're not doing impressions. they're made up to look a bit like them, but they at no point did I feel that they weren't playing real people. It was incredible.
Matt, you watched this on the train.
I did on the way down to the press screening. I totally agree with what you've said. I enjoyed the performances. Yeah, Vicky McClure, really sort of good as this sort of forthright, passionate woman who isn't perfect, but tries her best. And conversely, you've got Anna Maxwell Martin, who is doing really good facial acting, because she doesn't have a lot of lines of dialogue, Anna Maxwell Martin. She's reacting to...
But that's the point of the character as well, is it? She doesn't want to speak out at first.
Reacting to what the people are saying. I think the scene where she just looks at all these sort of sacks and sacks of letters that they've received from people who, you know, want to sympathise with them. And when she's back at her job as a dinner lady and she just drops all those pies because she can't cope with being surrounded by all these school children. Those scenes are really well sort of played and well choreographed. And yeah, I think both actresses, I think this is going to feature very heavily in the BAFTAs coming up next year. But yeah, it was a really well-made drama, and the period detail was quite well done.